The scene is Oregonia, Ohio. The date is October 1991, and we're here for the Dayton Motorcycle Club's annual professional hill climb. With me to describe the action is Bob Moore.
Thank you, Norm. The action here at Fritz Powell's Farms actually started taking place back in 1948 when the Miami Valley Motorcycle Club first sponsored the first hill climb, and it's been held continuously ever since. The Dayton Motorcycle Club picked it up in 1965. Miami Valley ran it again in 66, and then from that point in time on, 1967, the Dayton Motorcycle Club has sponsored this event. Down through the years, we've had some tremendous riders and some tremendous battles between the top hill climbers in the world. The old man of the mountain, Howard Mitchell, had won many Devil Staircase hill climbs, and he reigned as champion from 1949 until 1958. His battles with Joe Hemas are legendary, and Joe was five-time national champion from 1948 up until 1967. At that point in time, there was a changing of the guard. Down from Canada came a guy by the name of John Williams, who reigned as champion 5 times, winning the championship in 1972, 77, 79, 80, and 81. All through those years, he was battling with a guy by the name of Earl Bowlby. Bowlby won his first championship in his second or third year as a competitor in 1968. It took him until 1976 to repeat, but boy, he sure held the reign from then on, because he won it in 76, 77, 78, 79, missed out in 80, but came right back in 81, 83, 84, 85, and 90. At the end of the 1990 season, Earl Bowlby decided that he wanted to retire. But he still has people riding some of those phenomenal BSA motorcycles which he built. Later on in the program, we're going to have an interview with Earl Bowlby, and I found it to be quite interesting. Mostly because he has been in on some of the biggest changes in the sport of motorcycle hill climbing. Back when he first started, they just ran rubber tires. Now they run chains on their tires, as you see here now. Also, the bikes are really much more sophisticated in their fabrication. What we have here is an aircraft type welded frame. The mechanics are very diligent in their duties in preparing these bikes for the hill climb. Most of these machines weigh just a little over 300 pounds, and their climb up the Devil Staircase are like rockets. Here we have the early morning job of climbing the hill, marking it off in 10-foot sections. This is a sign-up crew starting to work. These are the climbers coming to sign in for the day's activity. Most of them you see are pretty warmly dressed because the air temperature down here at this time of the day was in the low 50s. The hill climbers come early because even though that they have to travel from quite a ways off, they still have a little bit of work that has to be done. These machines are well engineered. They're cantilevered, engineering on the frame and the swinging arm section here. The engines are all machined off to get rid of as much weight as possible. Climbing up the staircase itself, it's quite a hard job, and the suspension gets quite a work over them. So you can see how the shock absorbers are mounted to allow these bikes to get as much traction as possible. We're on the side of the 1991 Devil Staircase, a professional motorcycle hill climb. We're at Fritz Powell's farm, and standing beside me is Mr. Fritz Powell, who has been the host of this since 1948. Fritz, how did the Miami Valley Motorcycle Club come to establish this hill climb?
Well, years ago they had one up here towards Corwin, and they come down here and tried to get this hill, and that old man that owned it wouldn't let them have it. And then they come by one day and asked me would I let them have it, and so I told them yeah, they could have it. And but we got along pretty good so far on this old hill, you know.
Well, this will be the 43rd running. It's a 42nd annual, so it'll actually be the 43rd running. You've had big crowds down here in the past, have you not?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been under 3,500 people at any time.
Okay, we're here talking to Earl Bowlby, 10-time Grand National Champion, stretching from 1968 to 1990. I'm not going to say you're retired, but what's going on, Earl?
Well, I've retired for the year positively because I didn't bring my motorcycle today. I sold all my nitro because nitro's scarce today. Next year, I'll probably be in the same boat. I'll probably still be retired.
You're going to maybe really sincerely hang it up.
There's a good chance I might not ride the hill climb circuit anymore.
After 22 years, you're going to just do what? Be a mechanic, a sponsor, or what's going on here with the family?
Well, correct you on one thing. It was after 25 years. That's 1/4 of a century I put into hill climbing.
Well, that's a long time, Earl.
I started in 1966 instead of 1968.
Well, you won your first national in '68, so it only took you 2 years to get the #1 plate, right?
Right.
And you held it 10 times.
10 times over the 25 years.
That's an outstanding record, Earl. We know you've always been a fierce competitor. Let me ask you one question. Tim Frazier, how's he look to you as a young man?
He looks fantastic.
What makes him go so hard?
Willpower.
What all kind of schooling have you given him?
I just told him a couple little odds and ends here and there, and then he sorted all those out and did what he wanted to do.
I can't say he looks like Earl Bowlby from 20 years ago because you still looked that good last year.
Well, Tim was a little younger when he started, so he might end up with 20 instead of 10 #1 places.
Well, if he rides with the same determination you did, no doubt about that. You won the national championship last year, 1990. You're retiring as a national champion then.
Right.
Is that one reason why you wanted to quit while you was on top of the pile?
Well, I kind of promised myself a few years ago that if I ever won the 10th national champion, I might retire. And last year just seemed like the proper time to do it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, it's sure going to miss you because you were always exciting to watch. We can't begin to tell you how many times it took the last ride by you to win the double staircase hill climb, and you let it all hang out. A couple times you actually crashed on the landing at the top of the hill, and you've always been extremely competitive. But let me ask you a question, Earl. You've been around the sport for 25 years. How much has it changed?
It has changed so much. It's the difference between daylight and dark from the day I started. When I started hill climbing, pro hill climbing, back in 1966, I started with an amateur hill climb bike and run gasoline and a rubber tire. And didn't win any hill climbs under those procedures, but I got seconds and third places under that setup.
But today's program, when you look down through the pit area, these machines are specifically built, designed to do one thing, and that's to rocket up these hills.
That's the only thing it's good for, is to take a 10-second or a 5-second ride full blast, as hard as it will go.
What brought up this transition in the design of the motorcycles?
I don't think it happened overnight. I think it happened over the whole span of period when I was riding, because I started out 25 years ago with a swing arm frame. I saw everybody else had rigid frames, so I said, well, they must know something I don't know, so I built a rigid frame motorcycle and started to win with it. 10 years later, I see the swing arms come back with good suspension on the rear, and well, they must know something I don't know again here, so I built my swing arm frame and did better again. So everything has its place in its time, I guess.
Well, when we first came around this hill climbing bit, they were running 80-inch flatheads, the old Indians and Harleys. Today's they're running 750 twins. They're still pushrod engines mostly. The BSA Triumph, they're out of production now, and so two-strokes are starting to work their way into the field. What is the future of the two-stroke in the field of professional hill climbing?
It depends on who is determined to make a multi-cylinder 4-stroke motor run. If you put a multi-cylinder 4-stroke motor on the hill, a 2-stroke doesn't have a chance.
In other words, you're talking along the lines of John Williams and those 4-cylinder Honda rockets he brings down here out of Canada.
Yeah, something like that, or the Suzuki GSXR motors. And Suzuki just recently has come out with a new GSXR 600 that would make a beautiful 540 class motorcycle.
I detect a little something going on here. You've rode BSA since day one, right?
Right.
Do I smell the fact that you might have a Suzuki out in the shop?
I do have a Suzuki GSXR motor in the shop under the lathe, covered up, just in case I want to dig it out and build another pro hill climber.
In other words, what you're saying is that maybe if the BSA doesn't get the job done for Tim Frazier, there might be a Suzuki in the future here?
No, I'm not saying that for Tim.
I can't pin you down, huh?
Tim will do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, but he will be on a BSA next year. And in the future, I look for him to be riding a Suzuki motorcycle. I may be wrong, but that's my opinion.
Well, what do you think the future holds for the whole sport? It's come so far in the past 25 years. Let's look into the future. What's down the road?
I think the sport's growing all the time. We've got every brand of motorcycle, not every brand today, but many of the brands today that are competitive. It's not just one or two brands of motorcycles that can win a hill climb. Just for instance, in the 800 class today, there are probably 20 riders here that'll be signed up in the 800 class, and 15 of those could win first place today. On any given day, 15 of those 20 riders could win first place.
Parity has arrived in.
I think so. And our spectators, we can't forget those. They come more and more every year, and we try to put on a better show every year for them. We try to go faster every year. We try to make our motorcycles, our equipment look better, sound better.
Well, it's quite spectacular, that's for sure. I mean, when those
dress ourselves up a little bit, a little more attractive. So I think it's just getting over the hump now, and new things are to come.
In other words, do you think professionalism has arrived and it's going to get even better?
Well, I'm sure it will get better over the years, right.
Well, I don't know why I can stand to wait that long or not, because we've always had a lot of fun down here at the Devil's Staircase Hill Climb. Earl, on behalf of the Dayton Motorcycle Club, we'd like to thank you for the 25 years of thrills that you've given us. They're innumerable. We've always thrilled to watch you make those last-second desperate climbs to get the win, and you've done it time after time. So we wish you the best of luck in your maybe retirement. You know, we'll put a quote around that part, and we hope you keep coming back.
I'll be back probably every year that Dayton Motorcycle Club has a hill climb, and that may be forever.
Well, we've been around since 1910, so we've got a pretty good start, so maybe not forever, but as long as we're all around. Thanks a million, Earl.
I think I speak for all the pro hill climbers in saying thanks a lot to Dayton Motorcycle Club for putting on such a professional event.
It's our pleasure, Earl. Thank you very much. We're in the pits with Tim Frazier out of Lancaster, Ohio. He's trying for his third national championship in the 500 class. What years did you win the 500 class championship, Tim?
In 88 and 90.
And you're going after the 91 now. This is a little bit unusual. You want to tell the fans why it's unusual?
Well, we wrapped up the title for the 91 season last week at York, Pennsylvania, and we had enough points to know it can beat us here today. So now we're just going for the last one of the year because we've won all the hill climbs up to now, and we'll be the first person in the history of hill climbs to win all the events in 1 year.
Now there's been 77 professional hill climbs, right?
Yeah, been 7 this year. No, yeah, 7 or 8.
Yeah, and this is the 8th one. This is the last one, and you've won 7 of them, right?
Yeah, I won 7 of them this year, and I won them all last year, but won.
So in the past 2 seasons, you've only lost 1 hill climb?
I lost 1 Point Payne hill climb and 1 Invitational National, and that was it. I won the Invitational National this year for the first time.
Well, Tim, how old are you?
27.
Are you married?
Yes, I'm married to Lisa Frazier. She used to be Louis Gerencer's daughter. He's an 800cc rider and a past champion too.
So what we've got kind of a family dynasty going here, right?
Yeah, because you got my other brother-in-law, Lou Gerencer Jr. and Jeff Yoder. They're in position to win the 800 class today. And my father-in-law, Lou Gerencer, he's in 5th in the point standings. And you got our cousin Ricky Hunter right in there too. So it's just keeping it in the family.
I'll tell you, that's something else, isn't it? Are there any young Frazier?
No, not yet.
Been too busy climbing hills, huh?
Yeah, it's just keeping things going way all right now. We'll think about that later.
Well, Tim, let's talk about this rocket you're riding. It's a BSA, so tell us a little bit about it, because it's not like your normal street bike.
What we have here is a stock BS. I mean, it started out being a stock BSA, but I get a lot of help from Earl Bowlby, who's past 10-time world champion, and I ride out his shop. And Gary Bowlby and my dad, Dick Frazier, they more or less build the bike and keep everything running good, and it makes it a lot easier for me just to get on it and ride it. When I have a good bike, it's going to perform well.
Well, it's a twin-cylinder 500cc BSA. About what year was it manufactured, the engine that is?
The engine we're using right now is a 65, but it's still running real good, and it hadn't let us down once yet.
Okay, now you've got a unit construction, right?
Yeah, it's unit construction with a longer frame, running the same AMA GP carburetors and magneto and nitro, and there ain't nothing real fancy about it. It's a basic and eliminates a lot of trouble.
Looks like it came out of a jeweler's box, so there's a lot special about this machine. Let's ask you about the fuel. You said nitro. Is it 100% or are you blending any?
We blend it down to 98% with other igniters to help it run better.
What kind of mileage you get out of that?
We usually go about a gallon a hill climb.
About a half a gallon every 500 foot, huh?
Yeah, it really drinks it pretty good, but it needs that much fuel to make it run good.
Well, Tim, you've been on the circuit how long? When did you start your actual amateur career?
I started here in 1984. I rode one hill climb here my first time and got 7th place.
In other words, your first hill climb was in the pro ranks?
Yeah, I've never rode any amateur hill climbs or anything like that. I just started out right at pro. And Earl Bowlby started me out and got me my license and stuff, and here we are.
In other words, you went right from being a pro, and it took you, what, 4 years to become national champion in a 500 class?
I rode one hill climb in '84, and then I rode the full season ever since then, and it took me to '88 to win my first championship. In '87 we finished 2nd for the year, so we was right in there then too. So
Tim, that's spectacular, because when you stop and think of how many guys have tried for years and years and years to even get in the top 5, then you turn right around and ace them. How old did you say you were?
27, but I have a lot of people behind me, and I have good help with Earl Bowlby, Gary Bowlby, and my family, my dad, my mom helps support me real well, and they make it a lot easier, so I can just come to hill climbs and concentrate on just riding it and doing a good job.
Well, you travel all over the United States. Which hill is your favorite hill?
Oh, I like them all because each one of the hills have their own little special thing that makes them challenging. Like Indiana has a nice jump in it, you have to time right, and New York has a breaker you have to time just right too. So each of the hills have their own little special items that make it interesting and keep the crowd coming, and that's what we want, the crowd here to put on a good show. That's why we come here.
Well, you guys always put on a good show. If you don't believe it, we paid a record purse last year, and as far as we can find out from the American Motorcycle Association, that set an all-time record.
Yeah, it did. For last year, for the record crowd you guys have and the purse we had, that was the best we ever had. And for what we do, we get paid excellent to do it.
Yeah, by the foot you make awfully good money when you win, but when you don't win, it doesn't pay worth a darn, does it?
No, not too much. It's a long drive home.
You've never made a trip to the crash house, have you?
No, I've been fortunate and I haven't went down since I've been hill climbing. Hope it keeps going, but it's something that very rarely you find.
Yes, I know. There isn't hardly a guy in this pit area that's rode a hill climber can walk a straight line.
Yeah, I have more problem getting down return trails than I do going up the hill. I went down on 1 or 2 return trails, but that's just because I let the bike get rolling too fast down the hill and I got away from it.
But you're saying there's no brakes on these things, right?
Yeah, it's just got a front brake and that's it. And other than that, the compression from the motor will hold you back coming down the hill. So you got to just watch yourself when you're coming back down.
Well, I guess when you get so pumped up, you know, to get up that hill and as quick as time as you can, you know, it's kind of hard to unwind that quick. So I guess you would get carried away coming down the hill. Tim, we wish you the best of luck. We really hope that you maybe ace this thing and become the first man ever to clean the house in professional hill climbing. Never in the history of the sport, and it goes back probably 80, 90 years, because when motorcycles were first built, there wasn't that many of them, and the only thing a guy had a chance of doing was getting out and running against nature. So as far as we can go through the record book, nobody's ever won them all. So best of luck to you, Tim.
Thank you, and thanks DMC for putting on an excellent event, and thanks to the spectators coming out and cheering us on, because you know that's the more they cheer and yell for us, faster we want to go and get put on a good show. So thanks a lot to everybody for coming out today.
Thank you, Tim Frazier. We're in the pits of the Williams family out of Markham, Ontario, Canada. We have
Wade Williams.
And we have Greg.
Greg Williams.
Right. And you both ride the 800 Rockets, right?
Yeah, that's right. I just joined the class this year. I took a year off to build up the new bike, and this is our first year campaigning it.
And I've been running the 800 class for 9 years with my dad now, and right now we're sitting tied for first place with little Louis Gerencer out of Elkhart, Indiana, and Jeff Yoder sitting behind us and 2 points back, so it's anybody's ball game today. We're just going to go out there and run hard and hope the bike runs well and hope I can get it through the timing light at the top.
Well, this is a family affair, and there's one family member missing. Brother John, come on over here. This is the chairman of the board, John Williams. John, what do you think about your boys being in the heat of the battle here?
Well, ever since they both started hill climbing the first year out, they were finished in second place, so you never really get used to them being in there, but boy, it was really something. Wade was down 11 points, I guess, as he mentioned, 2 hill climbs ago, and he's right back in first place again, and we're all pretty excited here, right, Dave? We've checked and checked and checked and made sure everything's right, so we're just going to get out there and get at it.
John, I asked you last year how old you were, and you told me you and Moses was trailer partners, so I'm not going to ask you this now. But how old are you, Wade?
I'm 31 years old right now.
And Greg?
I'm 28 years old.
And Greg's a baby of the family. John, are all three of you riding in the same class?
We're all riding in the 800 class.
How's it feel to be competing against your dad?
Well, the whole year has been kind of strange for me. I don't look at it as competing against just my dad. I'm competing against everybody out there, and he's one of the competitors that I have to beat.
In other words, it's no holds barred when you go up that hill, right?
That's right. When we're on the line, it's just you and the bike, and you're not thinking, oh, well, what if I beat Dad? You know, is he going to buy me dinner or feed me groceries this week? Or you just have to go out and do your own show and just go as fast as you can.
In other words, there's no pecking order in the Williams family. Is this correct?
No, definitely not. We work as a team together to try and make sure all these bikes are right before we get them in the pits. But once we get them there, it's serious business, and we're all out for our own tails, so to speak. We go out there and we run hard, and it's not, if Dad was sitting in first place, I'd back off to let him have it or anything like that. Everybody's going for it every ride.
Well, 70 points, and you're tied with Wade Gerencer, or Lou Gerencer, yeah, and you're tied at him with 70 points. This is the last climb of the season. You go for all the marbles today. What have you done different today that you've done the rest of the season?
Well, I can't let that out of the bag because we haven't started the race yet, but we made sure we checked things and make sure that the motor was sound for today, and I just tried to make sure I was mentally prepared coming into today, and hopefully I can get on there and do the bike justice, and maybe we can come home with it. Who knows?
Well, John, let me get you in here before you have to run off again. The national championship, is it going back to Canada?
Well, we're down here for one thing, is to bring it back home. We want to make those guys have a banquet up in Canada for a change.
How long has it been since the national championship's been in Canada?
The 800 class has never gone to Canada, ever.
So history's in the making, right?
Pretty darn close.
Well, Wade, we wish you the best of luck. We know you're going to give it everything you're worth.
Thank you very much. We're going to give it 100%.
Greg, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wade.
Thank you.
Hey, best of luck.
Thank you.
We're in the pits now with the Gerencer family, Lou Sr., Lou Jr., and Harry Schreiber. They're all Harley-Davidson mounted. They all live in right around South Bend, Lou?
Well, we live, me and Lou live in Elkhart, Indiana, and Harry Schreiber lives in Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. How'd you happen to come up with a rider from off the East Coast?
I don't know. We just like the looks of him, so we thought we'd see if we could adopt him.
Well, looks like you've done a good job, I'll tell you. You guys are really tearing the hills up. Lou Jr. is in competition now for the national championship title of 1991. He has 70 points. He's tied with Wade Williams. What do you think about this action with Lou Jr.?
Well, he's got a chance to win it just as well as Wade does, and it's whoever bobbles or makes a mistake is going to lose, and they're going to be real close otherwise.
But you're three-time national champ. You were 48 years old, no, 48 years old when you won your first one. And how old did you say Lou Jr. was?
Well, he's 24, so he's got a little earlier start than I did.
And he's already vying for the national championship. Lou, are you nervous?
No, not yet.
What have you done to the bikes?
We took the top end off, put some new rings in it. That's about all we did since the last hill climb.
In other words, you just sort of dressed it up a little bit and took the rough edges off.
Checked everything out, made sure it was right.
Harry, what do you think about being part of a national championship potential team?
I'm just tickled to death to even be a part of the team with the guys. We have a good time.
Well, how long have you been doing professional hill climbing?
About 11 years.
Describe yourself. How old are you?
I'm 29 years old from Baltimore, Maryland. Have a wife and daughter, Samantha. Just like to race with the guys.
Well, you must have a lot of potential to get tied up with the Gerencers.
I was really fortunate to be with such a fine team.
Lou, your son's going for the national championship. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think that's great. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Is he following in Dad's footsteps, right?
I hope so.
Well, you reigned this King of the Hill for 3 times now, and he's trying it at the age of 24. What's the future hold for the Gerencers?
Well, I think they'll be going a long time and doing real well.
We noticed that you're riding the twin-cylinder Harley-Davidson, the XR models. You want to describe what you've done to these bikes, because I know they're a long ways from being just what the factory brought out.
Well, we have special pistons made for them, but they're still a 750cc. And then we have fuel injection, and we run 95% nitromethane, and we run high gear, and they're putting about 160 horsepower out and weigh 340 pounds.
Do you have any particular feelings about competing against Lou Jr.?
No, if I don't do that, then he might not ride quite as hard.
That means you ride hard enough to beat Dad.
Yeah, he's got to beat me.
He's got to go like hell and do that. How about it, Lou? Do you feel anything different about riding against your dad?
No, just like riding against anybody else.
In other words, once you get on that hill, it's no holds barred, right?
Doesn't matter who it is.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, and we hope you do well, and we hope you have a real good ride, and maybe you can go to the bank on your way home.
Oh, that'd be nice. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lou Jr., and thank you very much, Lou Sr.
Thank you for talking to us.
It's our pleasure, and Harry, we hope you have a good ride, too.
I hope to do well for everybody.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Friday, and it actually rained a little bit on Saturday, so Sunday morning it was coming up nice, and the weather was cool, but boy, I'll tell you one thing, that hill was tacky. It was really the point where the bikers were really checking things out, because the traction was really going to be outstanding. They knew that they was going to have a good line going up the hill. This first shot that we're going to see of Scott Everett, he was tied for second place with Paul Pincinot going into today's competition. And now I'm going to show you how hard that Scott was trying. Just watch him coming off this start here. I mean, he never shuts it down, and his bike just went straight up in the air and end over end. And he was mad. Of course, you can tell from the way he's running up that he wasn't hurt. The bike was damaged. It broke the handlebars and some other things, and he knew he had his work cut out for him, because now he's only got one more shot to try and do well in the competition for today's money and also for the National Point Fund money. Scott's a great rider. Matter of fact, I think he won the open class a couple years back. And this is Bruce Swiger here, number 44, and he had a pretty good time, and he climbed the hill in 8.592. You can sure tell these bikes have horsepower, Norm, from the way they come out of that hole.
I think that first rider had a little bit too much traction.
Oh, yeah. Boy, he had him looking. And this is Ralph Krieger coming up the hill here, rider number 17. He had a pretty good time, 8.271. Here we have number 5, Ernie Pelton. Ernie's a veteran of the hill climb, man. He cranks off a real good time. He turned in a 7.583. And that earned him 5th place at the competition during the day. Good ride by Ernie. Next man on the hill is on a Kawasaki. This is Paul Garrity, number 12. Paul's a newcomer, and the best he could get was a 9.312, which got him 17th place out of the 22 riders. Next man on the hill is Scott Kagame. Scott really didn't do too well here. Something blew on the engine, or malfunction, and best he could get was 30 foot on his first attempt. He did finally, on his second run, turn a 9.678, which got him a 19, so Kagame didn't have a very good day of it. This is one of the more colorful machines. This is Bill Hislop. This is one of the Dayglow two-strokes. Well, I'll tell you, it sounded good going up the hill, though.
That was the one with the Rotax engine and the snowmobile transmission.
It sounded great, though, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
And this is another two-stroke. This is Bill Apicella. Bill cranked off a 8.569 on his first climb, but he got faster as the day went on. He finally ended up in 9th place on his Kawasaki. Looks like we had a lot of people down there with the camcorders taking pictures. This is John Hislop coming out of the hole. John finished in 18th place in the competition for the day. There's a younger crowd we've had in years gone by. A lot of people brought their families down. It was a beautiful day and everybody had a great time. The natural amphitheater of the hollow down there, you can watch it from across the creek bottom, or you can stand on either side of the hill, and it made for a good viewing. Spectator, not a bad seat in the house, really. People just wander around, go from spot to spot. Now this is number 7. This is Larry Lick coming out of the hole. Larry turned a 7.555, and he had a very, very good run. His first climb time was the faster of the two, and he ended up 4th place in the standings. There's some of the crowd watching from the, looks like the west side of the hill. We have a barrier that keeps them back for safety factor. Now number 40 here, this is Alan Hoskins. Alan turned a 7.730 in his first climb time, and that was the best of the two for 6th place in the 500 competition. Good smooth ride by Alan. The guy in the blue is number 31. This is Richard Soder.
You see he's got one of those paddle tires.
Yeah, that's a sand tire that he's adapted for hill climb use. Turned a real good time with it too. Got a 7.941. Number 54 is another one of the two-strokes. This is a Honda. It's Gary Miller. He got a 13th place with an 8.206. The horsepower, as you can notice there at the foot of the hill, the ruts that they're digging, boy, I'll tell you, by the day's end, it looked like a railroad switching yard down there. Looks like that rider's starting to lose the rings in his engine. As you can tell from the bottom of the hill, the traction's still fantastic because they're throwing a rooster tail and not much dust. Now this next rider coming up, this is going to be Tim Frazier. He's making an attempt to win the 8th event in a row in the 1991 schedule. And he's a young kid, he's only 27 years old. He's got a lot of pressure on him. He's won 2 national championships, but he is going after the 3rd national, but he's trying to sweep the whole schedule. He's won every event he's been in this year. And there's prestige because never in the history of the sport of motorcycling has any champion, I believe I can say that in all phases, whether it's dirt track or road race, has anyone ever won every event. And he has a chance to do this, and he's got 2 shots at the Devil's Staircase, and he's really under a lot of pressure. He was walking up and down the hill quite a bit. He ought to be pretty tired by now. He's riding a BSA that's been prepared by Earl Bowlby, and that thing really sounded beautiful. It was as sharp as a tack. Now this is a historic climb, and just watch the intensity that he approaches this hill. I mean, he's really psyching himself up. He's on the western edge of the hill too. He stayed clear away from where everybody else was running. I think it's because he wanted a smooth track to run on. But boy, he kept that sucker low on the ground, and it went over the top of that hill in record time. He had a 7.027, which was fast time for the day, and he won his 8 in a row. And he was one happy guy. Next rider on the hill is rider 15. This is Bill Hislop. Bill's keep going trying. He works hard at this game. Hill climb is a tremendously technical sport, and you really don't realize it until you get down and start looking at the equipment. Well, I mean, to tell you, it is beautiful. It's craftsmanship on these things is tremendous. This is rider number 18. This is Doug Clown. Doug's another one of the veterans on the hill. This is on his first run, and he turned an 8.301, and he got quicker as the day went on. He finally ended up in 10th place in the final standings. The approach that these riders take, each of them seems to be a little bit different. Now here comes back up in the same rut that Frazier made. They really walk the hill. They like to, each one really checks out the path that he wants to take up that hill, and a lot of times they vary. This is Roger Mcnee climbing into 7th place with this run. Turned a 7.471. Notice the long wheelbase on these things. Makes it a lot harder to turn over that way. There's a nice smooth run to the top by Bill Hislop. A couple of riders checking things over. You can check out the rider on the left with the protective gear that he has on in case he does actually happen to fall off. You'll notice the 3 terraces going up. That's where the hill derived its nickname, the Devil Staircase Hill Climb. This is one of the older riders on the circuit. This is number 86, Leon Everett. Leon's been around for years and years. Turned an 8.435, good for 15th place. Now watch this. Did you see that come out of there? This is Fritz E Walton, and I mean to tell you, he completely destroyed this engine. I mean, it had a hole big enough in the left-hand side you could have put your foot through. Piston was sticking out of it. The referee, Ron Denny, said that he had heard that the nitro had leaked down into the case and it ignited down in the case instead of on top of the piston, and it blew the engine apart. And it was an expensive explosion, because I'll tell you, these things are not cheap. This is number 55. We're in the 800 class now. This is David Deaver. You can sure tell a difference in the horsepower. Some of these 800 machines supposedly develop between 160 and 180 horsepower. They only weigh around 320, 330 pounds. That puts it to 2 pounds per every horsepower. Here comes Lou Gerencer. He's going after the national championship, and he got it with a 6.485. That was winning time in the 800 class. Next man on the hill is old veteran Randy Gabriel, rider number 6. Turned in an 8.600 on his first climb. Got faster and got into the 7-second bracket later on. Next man coming up is rider number 49. This is Don Pincinalt. Don had his troubles most of the day. Times wasn't as fast as what he normally could turn them. Looks like Don was down pretty much on horsepower. We ended up with a record crowd again, Norm. As I understand, it was a little over 6,000 people down there that day. Gets bigger and better every year. This is rider number 34. This is Rod Smith. Rod's one of the younger riders on the hill. Looks like he's going to be a goer, but he's got a little bit of a way to go yet. But he can still get her in the 7-second bracket. Here comes our old friend Tommy Reiser out of Columbus. Tom was a 1964 champ, and he's been at it ever since. turned in a 6.963, and that was good for 9th place. Comes Charlie Casey. Boy, Charlie had trouble on that first hump all day long. Boy, he'd get that bike of his up in the air and it'd come down hard. A couple rides like that, Charlie could sing in the church choir. Next man on the hill is Greg Williams, riding one of the 4-cylinder Hondas out of Canada. And boy, I'll tell you, that sucker sounds like a rocket. Best Greg could get was a 6.584, and that was only good for 3rd place. Here's a Harley Davidson off the East Coast. This is Harry Schreiber out of Maryland. Rides one of Lou Gerencer's equipped bikes. Harry had a 8.002 on his first run time. He got her into the 6-second bracket on the second one. This is another newcomer. I believe this is Mark Swim. Mark turned a 9.496 on his first attempt. Next man on the hill is a guy going after the championship. He had a chance to win it. Rider number 3, Wade Williams, another one of those 4-cylinder Hondas. This is the way it turned out during the program. This is Wade's first and only run. Turned a 6.648 on his first climb time. Second time, he never got out of the hole. He blew the transmission. This is rider number 14. This is Tom Zink. Tom finished in 17th place. The smell of these engines running is something that really sticks in your mind when you get a full shot of the fumes come out of those engines. I'll tell you, it really chokes you up. This is Dave Overholt on a 2-cycle engine. Turned to 9.149. Next man on the hill is another one of the veterans, 3-time champ, number 5, Lou Gerencer Sr. Past national champion, and his son Lou Jr. won his first one this year. Lou finished in 5th place. This is Bob Marsh throwing one down the road. Got to the 100-foot mark. Lost control of it and end over end. These guys, when they do this, they come down from a pretty good altitude. They're up 12, 14, 18 foot in the air. They're letting go of that bike. They're probably at that point in time maybe running about 50, 60 mile an hour. So it's quite a jolt when they hit the bottom. This number 2 is Jeff Yoder. Jeff was in the competition for the championship. Had a good run, but wasn't good enough. Turned to 7.012 on his first climb time. Gives you an idea how many people actually ride their motorcycles down there, Norm.
Yeah, this is the last big social event of the fall season for most of them.
Yeah, they do socialize. A lot of people, I don't think, ever even go back up to the hill and watch the hill climb. They just walk around the bikes and seeing who's doing what and riding what. It's very, very colorful though down there this time of year. Fall colors were beautiful.
Yeah, it's usually a nice day to be out on a bike.
Okay, this is Roger Mcnee, rider number 47. Roger's trying his second run, but he didn't do any better than he did his first time. This is another old veteran. This is old Randy Gabriel. Randy sure loves these hills. Well, he's just been to the crash house many, many times, and he just keeps coming back. You can sure tell the hill's getting a beating now. Boy, look at the ruts in there. Those 800cc machines sure dig a heck of a trench, don't they? This is Rodney Smith, 34, coming up on his second run. Number 77 coming into the box next is George E Walton. Got her loose, boy, I tell you. He had his hands full there at the beginning, but he got her up to the top. Took 13th place money home, too. Now there's a good run by number 9. This is Bob Castledine. Bob really come on hard. Turned to 6.539, took 2nd place money home. This is Charlie Casey again. Watch him on that first jump. Boom. Boy, he hits hard. Charlie had to be sore after that day was over. Because, boy, I'll tell you, that bike was really beating him to death. We're into the tail end of the 2nd round. Mark Swim making another shot at it. Next man on the hill is going to be number 28. This is Greg Williams, making his 2nd run for the money. Ran real well this time. Turned in a 6.584. Took home 3rd place money with that attempt right there. This is Harry Schreiber Jr. out of Maryland again on his 2nd run. Turned in a 6.794. That was good for 7th place. This is Tommy Reiser making his 2nd shot at the hill. Got quicker on, turned 6.963, and that took home 9th place for Tom. Good to see him in the top 10 again. Another 2 cyclones, Dave Overholt. Just about lost it there coming off that first jump. Bike had a narrower wheelbase than most of them, so a little bit more skitterish to handle. Gerencer Jr, number 5, making a 2nd run. Turned to 6.849, good enough for 8th place. Number 11 is Rick Hunter. Rick stayed on the west side of the hill. Turned in a 7.632. That was good enough for 12th place. Got him a point. Now he got 3 points. Rider number 2 is Jeff Yoder. Jeff's 2nd climb time was the quicker of his 2. He took a 6.737. That moved him into 6th place money. This rider 24 was last year's winner. This is Tom Chatterton. Tom really coming on strong. He's only been climbing hill a few short years, and he turned in a 6.716. Good for 5th place money for Tom. Okay, the overall results in the 540 class, your winner was Tim Frazier with a time of 7.027. Finishing in 2nd place was Ted Wilkins with a time of 7.032. In 3rd place was Paul Pinsonat with a time of 7.070. Finishing 4th was Larry Licht with a time of 7.918. And finishing in 5th place was Ernie Pellin with a time of 7.583. In the 800 class, Lou Gerencer won the title for the double staircase with a time of 6.458. Finishing in 2nd place was Bob Castledine with a time of 6.539. Finishing in 3rd was Greg Williams with a time of 6.584. Finishing in 4th was Wade Williams with a time of 6.648. And rounding it out in 5th place was Tom Chatterton with a time of 6.716.
Well, Bob, thanks for describing all the action, and I hope to see you back at the Devil's Staircase next year.